And we are live. Welcome to the MLB Strategy Show. It is Monday, September 18th. I am Josh Engleman, here to break down a 8-game MLB slate today on a 2-game primetime NFL day. Not going to be the most popular day for baseball, but we are breaking it down nevertheless. So, hit that like button if you haven't done it already. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. We will talk a little bit about Owner's Box in a bit. Another frustrating Sunday for me on a day with massive overlay, but I can only complain so much. What's up, everybody? Good to talk some baseball. We have 2 more weeks of this bad boy before the regular season comes to a close. I have no idea what we're doing for the playoffs. I can't imagine it's a ton, but we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, it's good to see everybody. It's good to see everybody. We're going to break this down. We're going to take our time. We're in no real rush here. Let me see. Let's see here. We got 8 games to break down. I don't believe there's anything after me, so we could take our time. Yeah, no shows after me, so let's take our sweet time. MLB Live Before Lock will exist later tonight at 5. We'll have an early NFL Live Before Lock because of the 2 games for tonight. But ultimately, this is all you're getting out of me. Contenders videos are already out. If you're interested, go check it out. Laffy's apologizing to me for going too long, but I don't mind, right? We don't care. We can go. We can do this as long as we want. We're going to start it off with the Washington Nationals taking on the Chicago White Sox, and right out of the gate, we're getting into the big one. My boy Joan pitching for the Nats, 4.3 run implied total here for Washington. Mike Clevinger on the hill for the White Sox, 4.6. So we're going to start on the White Sox side. Well, actually, let's start with the pitching. 7% ownership coming into Joan, 5% ownership coming into Clevinger. My boy Joan is all the way down at 5,400, Clevinger at 7,600. I'm not really getting to either guy. Joan is very clearly a value option at 5,400 given this slate, but there's so much value on the opposite side that it becomes a little difficult to talk about. Either way, in the grand scheme of things, we only have 16 potential pitchers. I think both Joan and Clevinger can be owned somewhere in the 5 to 10% range. Neither guy is someone you want to go crazy for. Clevinger, little bit of problems with power against lefties, 188 x ISO. Really has no problem limiting righties. On the opposite end, Joan, lots of power to both. 196 x ISO to lefties, 184 to righties. Now we need to talk about bats, and that's where this gets really, really interesting. So the White Sox are the number 1 value team. They're the number 1 value team in our top stacks tool. They're the number 1 value team in my top stacks tool. They're so easy to get to. They're 3rd in ownership at 13% aggregate, and they should be. It's a great park. It's a great matchup. Every bit of this looks really good. Like I said, we have them 2nd in top stack at 9.7%. I'm a little bit different, but it's blurry. If I just sort my top stack, you guys can see it on the screen right now. Let me make it a little bit bigger so you can understand it. I have the White Sox 7th in top stack, but 7.9% here. Ahead of them is 8.1, 8.2, 8.4, 8.5. Like, that's not a lot of separation. So they look like a fantastic stack, but unequivocally, they're an incredible value. And I'm having a lot of trouble getting away from at least parts of it. I have 18% White Sox. I have 31 White Sox stacks. That's how I'm starting today off. Tim Anderson just looks too good at 3,200 in a leadoff spot. It's just too much volume for the price tags. Clearly getting to Lou Bob is easy, even though he's 5,500. He's the only expensive bat for the White Sox. These guys are just so overwhelmingly cheap that I can't totally get away from them. They look too good on paper. And the matchup, the park, every bit of that is helping the White Sox too. So I really do like Chicago. It is going to be a team that I have a lot of. Right now, I'm a couple percentage points over the field. Only guy that I'm really not getting too much is Andrew Vaughn. I'm half the field as of right now, 3,400. My guess is that it's just because I'm getting to Gavin Sheets instead. I have Sheets projected better than Vaughn, and he's $800 cheaper and has the MPE. So I assume that's what's causing the White Sox side, but you can't ignore them today. They look way too good. They were my number one team in the contenders video because that value is tough to pass up on. So go Chicago White Sox today. I feel like we never lead off the show with the team that I like on paper like the most, but that's where we're at. I have more of the White Sox than I have of any other team on today's slate. Anderson and Benintendi are the two guys that are in the most of my lineups, but that shouldn't be all that surprising. Top of the order carries the weight. Nats on the opposite side, though. They're 11th in top stack. I have them dead on the same number as the site. I have them third in top value, as do we. They're fifth in ownership at 7.5%. I have 14 stacks and a little over 8%. I have no problem getting to the Nats here. Now, I don't think either one of these offenses are all that good, but they're good enough spots to get to. Lefty power is what's going to carry you here for Washington against Clevenger. So CJ Abrams, Keibert Ruiz, Dom Smith, Luis Garcia. Those are really like the ways that you can go today. Jake Alou doesn't really have enough pop. I'm getting a pretty big stand of Keibert Ruiz, which I like. $3,600 lefty on righty, checking off a catcher box. That feels pretty good to me. So Keibert Ruiz is the guy that I'm getting the most of. CJ Abrams would be second. They are the two guys that I would want to get the most of. So I think the Nats, I don't want to say they're sneaky because they're fifth in ownership, but they're certainly a team that you need to keep your eye on. The park plays up runs, it plays up power, and Mike Clevenger's just not as good as he used to be. So in this game, I'm going to rank it White Sox bats, Nats bats. Joan, then Clevenger because of the price. That's where we stand for game number one. And then we keep it moving. We go to the Atlanta Braves. They have a 4.7 run implied total. That is very limiting for them. There's a reason for that. They're also taking on the Phillies and Kyle Wright on the hill for Atlanta, Zach Wheeler on the hill for Philadelphia. That is why you're seeing such a low run total for the Braves. It takes a lot for the Braves to even project like an average offense, and that's what happens when you get Wheeler out there. Wheeler is $10,900. That's $400 cheaper than Freddie Peralta, but clearly a difficult matchup. Now, Wheeler is 9% owned. I think that's probably about where he should be. Right around that 10% range seems right. I am not getting to Zach Wheeler, but you don't just run away from it because it's the Braves, but it is a very, very bad spot. When Acuna and Albies are in that 1-2 spot, it's immediately an even more difficult spot just because they don't strike out all that frequently. Kyle Wright on the opposite side, 6K, 6% owned, should be somewhere in that 5 to 10% range. Another game that I don't really have much of the pitching for very different reasons. As we talk bats, I think we start on the Phillies side. They are 7th in ownership, 5.5% owned. We have them third in top stack. I have them fourth. So I'm in lockstep with the site. I have a couple stacks, just 3. I have about 4% of them overall, which is mostly just Kyle Schwarber in the leadoff spot. I don't really see me getting to a ton of Philadelphia, although the park does help. I just like, what do we want to think about Kyle Wright? He's given up major power to lefties in the past. So Schwarber, Harper, Bryson Stott, Brandon Marsh, those 4 guys are going to look pretty good, but he also greatly limits righties. Over the past 2 seasons, 0.090 x ISO to righties. Bad spot for Trey Turner, for Alec Boehm, for Real Muto, Castellanos. This is going to be a very tough spot for the righties. I want to have some of the lefties, and I'm very happy with the amount of Schwarber that I have, but I don't see the Phillies as a team I want to get a lot of. On the Braves side, they're the most expensive team you can get to. They're dead last in value. 16th for the site, 16th for me. I think they have a pretty big ceiling because they're Atlanta, so that shouldn't be too surprising. But it's Wheeler. I mean, we're talking about one of the better pitchers in baseball going up against Atlanta. 134 x ISO to lefties, 105 to righties. That's where the strikeouts come in. I don't really see Wheeler as all that great, but this isn't the day that I'm trying to get to Atlanta. Now, Are they the top scoring stack like 7% of the time? Yeah, that's pretty frequent. But today, I just don't really see it. They're 2.5% owned. That's the second lowest amount on today's slate. I have the same amount, basically, 2.5%. I have 3 stacks. I think this game, I just want to mostly stay quiet. The most important thing to me is going to be the lefties for Philly. So as I rank this game, oh boy, I'm going to say specifically lefties bats from Philadelphia, Wheeler, Braves bats, Kyle Wright. I don't have much interest in the righty bats from Philly. I agree with Steven Leibowitz, though. Hit that like button for the 64 of you that are here. I hope you had a good NFL Sunday. I broke even on Owner's Box again. I didn't have anything threatening in the top 10. That didn't seem like it was going to look that way, but I had 4 lineups in the top 1%. And that's 1% of what was entered, not necessarily like building it off of the 13,000 entries or whatever. So there was like 9,500 entries. So yet you needed to have them in the top 95. I had 4 of them. That's an incredible day. I can't be mad about that in any way. It just so happens to not have paid me off for the first 2 weeks. I had really good lineups in the power sweep. I had one lineup in a single entry that got into like the top 60, which I'm very, very happy about. But ultimately, a pretty normal NFL day, no big wins. Walked away with more money than I had when I started the day. So that's all I could really ask for. All right. Schedule for the rest of the day. We definitely don't want to miss that. Let me make sure I have it. So is that right? Yeah, 5 p.m. MLB Live before lock. You're going to get Greg and Eric. And then at 6 p.m. NFL Live before lock. Don't forget, 2 games tonight. And Laffy and Matt Gajewski have already done a showdown NFL video. That went live at 9 o'clock. So they were live up until this show started. Go check that out if you want some more details. Laffy and Neil are going to go live tonight at 6 p.m. You don't want to miss that. Double football tonight, guys. Double football. All right. Cardinals and Brewers. 4-run implied total for the Cards, 5 for the Brewers. Adam Wainwright going for St. Louis. Freddie Peralta going for Milwaukee. Wainwright is 5K, unowned. If we're at a point in mid-September right now where I got to explain why Adam Wainwright's not interesting, congrats on showing up for your first MLB show. Peralta on the other side, we do need to talk about. So he is 11,300. That is clearly a big price tag. That is the most expensive pitcher on today's slate. However, he's 7% owned. This is not a good strikeout matchup against the Cardinals. Based on the lineup that I have in, 4 of the guys in the Cardinals lineup strike out against righties less than 20% of the time. Plus, we have Lars Nootbaar on 20% on the dot. Mason Wynn is at 21. Not great. The strikeout prop for Freddie Peralta is at 6.5. I have him well under that number. I think he's a little bit too high, but we'll see where this goes. I just don't really see the upside to getting to Peralta today. Is he one of the top 2 scorers pretty regularly? Yeah, he is. But there is so much cost efficiency in the mid-tier of pitching that you're really paying up for Peralta to be contrarian. He's 7% owned. I think he should be around 10, no different than Wheeler. But these don't appear to be, at least as of right now, the guys that I'm trying to get to. Maybe that changes later tonight. I just don't see it yet. I have 1% of Peralta. I basically haven't talked about a pitcher yet. Peralta, Wheeler, Clevenger, Wright, Joan, and Adam Wainwright. We've talked about 6 pitchers so far. I have 7% total of those guys. Get ready. We're going to talk a lot about pitchers in a couple of minutes. As we talk about hitting here, now this is a spot that gets a little bit different because I have a giant fade in this game. We'll start with the Cardinals quickly. They're not getting any ownership. They're 14th in top stack. They're 10th in top value. They're one of the worst teams you can get to because of Freddie Peralta being on the opposite side. Now, if we do want to talk about the fact that Freddie Peralta is on the opposite side, 188 x ISO to lefties, 140 to righties. Oh, sorry, that's over the past 2 years. He's not really given up much power this year, though, to either hand. It's just strikeouts. I don't want to go to the Cardinals. I have 2 stacks. I have less than 2% overall. If you want to be on the opposite side of ownership, that could be a path to get to them. But there's no ownership coming into Peralta. So I don't see why you would want to do this. The Brewers are different. We have them number 1 in top stack. I have them number 1 in top stack. We're basically the same in value. They are second in ownership today at 14%. I have 5 right now and 1 stack. We all know what you get when you face Adam Wainwright. This is a man with an 11% K rate, a 270 X ISO to lefties, and a 220 X ISO to righties. He is projected to get blasted today. Blasted. And nobody's aggressively owned. 18% to a $4,300 Willy Adames on an 8-gamer to me isn't crazy, but these guys are over-owned as a whole. They look great on paper. You're absolutely looking at Milwaukee for cash options. William Contreras, Carlos Santana, Willy Adames. Those three guys are going to be guys you look at pretty aggressively. In a large field GPP, however, I think that I'm going to be able to find some other spots where I have a better chance of winning the contest compared to where everybody is here for Milwaukee. So the most I have is Willy Adames an 8%, Christian Yelich an 8%. That's about half the field. If you like the Brewers today, I have nothing to tell you differently. Facing Adam Wainwright is a giant benefit over and over and over again. But they still only have a 5-ish run implied total. There's a lot of teams in and around that same number that aren't pulling the same ownership as the Brewers. And I think those teams start to look a little bit more interesting in large field stuff. So if I'm ranking this game, it's very easy. It's Brewers bats, Freddie Peralta, Cardinals bats, Adam Wainwright. But in large field, in the big, what was it, the bat flip or whatever it is today, it's not the relay throw, whatever that contest is. That is not a place where I would like to be getting to a lot of the Brewers, but they do, on paper, look like some of the best point per dollar options you could roster. Honestly, let me actually look and see where I have them. So if I just refresh that, let's shrink these things down too so I can look at every table. There we go. All right, so I have Andrew Benintendi relative to salary as the best play today, hitting in the 2-hole 3,300. That's for outfielders, by the way. This doesn't take into account any positional scarcity. But you're going to see a lot of Milwaukee near the top of this list. Like Willy Adames is 26th overall. That's not all that crazy. But it's like the lefty Philly bats, like Schwarber looking really good. CJ Abrams looking good. These are some of the names that we've touched on before. You see a lot of the White Sox bats at the top. I like those spots. I'm going to be light on the Brewers, though. Unless we see that ownership come down, to me, that's probably my easier fade of the day. They are, like I said, they're the second most owned team. I guess they're not my biggest fade. I'm also not getting to the most owned team. So I'm finding today's slate to be very interesting in terms of getting away from chalk. We'll find out how everybody feels about that when we get to the end. Rangers and Red Sox. It's a 4.8 run implied total for Texas, 3.8 for Boston. Jordan Montgomery going for the Rangers, Cutter Crawford for the Red Sox. Does Cutter Crawford pitch every day? I feel like I talk about him and want to stack against him constantly, and I'm about to do it again. Now, Montgomery's 25% owned. He's 8K. We have to pay attention to Jordan Montgomery here. We have him 16% top 2 pitcher, 14% top 2 value. I'm a little bit higher, 22% and 19%. I think he should be around 20% owned. He's pulling 25. All of that seems fine to me. I have about 20, so I am right in lockstep with the field. Lefties haven't touched him at all this year. Unfortunately for him, the only lefty that's going to be in the lineup for Boston likely is Rafael Devers. So it's going to be a lot of righties, but 21% K rate to righties, 168 X ISO. That's really not that bad for lefty righty. So I'm very happy to get to Montgomery at that price. Crawford on the opposite side against Texas, kind of a scary spot. Park plays up power. Crawford has given up a ton of it to lefties, a little bit of it to righties. Corey Seager, Nate Lowe, Grossman, Heim, Tavares, all look pretty solid here in this lefty-righty spot against Crawford. Now, I've been trying to attack lefties against the righty Crawford for a couple weeks. Has not been working out for me. But we're going to be doing it again today. They are 6th in top stack, 6th in ownership. I have 19 Ranger stacks, 11% compared to the 7 in public. I'm getting to Semien in 2x the field. I'm getting to Seager and Lowe and Garver and Josh Smith. I don't have a ton of this team, but 20 stacks is no joke. That's a real amount of stacks. That's not light work. That right now, 19 would be the third most I have behind the White Sox and the Orioles, who we'll get to in a little bit. I really like Texas here against Crawford. I've been targeting Crawford a lot lately. Today's not going to be any different. I'm also targeting against Montgomery, though. If he's ever going to get touched up, it's going to be against righties. Red Sox are certainly running out a bunch, and there's enough power here and salary here to make things look really good. 4% ownership to Boston. 12th in top stack, but somewhere around 6th in top value. We have them around 5% stack score, 3.8% ownership. I have over 8%, including 14 stacks. Now, most of that is going to be Rafaela in the leadoff spot. $3,500 shortstop outfield MPE, only 5% owned. Probably the most underrepresented person on the main slate. Very big positive leverage, given that ownership, given that positionality. I like Ref Snyder as well, and then I'll have little bits of everybody else. But the top of the order for Boston stands out a lot to me. So if I'm ranking this game, I'm going to go Rangers bats, Montgomery, Red Sox bats, Cutter Crawford. 720 Red Dog. I did not have big NFL wins yesterday. I wish that I did. I didn't have any losses. I made money. I guess that's probably a win. You know where I tried to make money yesterday? Couldn't pull it off. Owner's Box, sponsor of this show, guys. And I assume they don't have their week 3 contest up yet. But yesterday we got a big one, and I hope you guys were able to take advantage as much as you could. They do have some nice contests going today. They have the Monday Blitz. Is that going to be both games for tonight? If that is, they have a 10K to first, 40K guaranteed contest that you can get into. Take a look at it. Now, for Owner's Box today, let's talk it through. If you click the link in the description of this video and sign up, you're going to get from us 1 week of our NFL Sims Max package. That's going to let you build everything you could possibly want to build for DraftKings, FanDuel, and Owner's Box on our site. You can generate up to 10,000 lineups and sim them all against each other. Get individual ROIs for stacks, for players, for lineups themselves. The amount of detail that you can go into, unrivaled at this point. This is the best thing you're going to do, and you're going to get it for a week for free. But you're also going to get to take advantage of the deposit bonus at Owner's Box. Put in $500 if you can. It has to be at least $10, but you can go up to $500. They're going to match that deposit. So you can put in $500, get another $500 in Owner's Bucks. It's like a 4.5% trickle to get rid of it. I've already cleared $137 of it over the first 2 weeks. So it peels away very, very easily. The contest that they ran yesterday was the best contest you could get to in the industry. Massive overlay. Around 10,000 entries. They needed 11.6 for break even. So every entry that you had in there was worth more than the value that you played it at. If it was $15 to get in, that entry was worth like 17 right out of the gate. Unfortunately, I broke even. But whatever that contest looks like next week, it's probably going to be the best contest in the industry again. If you want to make money in NFL DFS, these are the things that you should take advantage of. You're going to get a week of our NFL Sims package. Incredible value. You're going to get a deposit bonus at Owner's Box. Can't beat that. And you're going to get the best contest that you could enter each week in the industry. All of those things should be what you hear. Take advantage while you can, guys, because eventually the contest is going to get smaller and the value is going to go away. Week 1 and 2 are the best that you can get to. Don't sleep on it for week 3. All righty, Astros and Orioles. This is one where I have a pretty sizable amount of the batters. We'll see what that ends up looking like. Justin Verlander going for Houston, 4.8 run implied total. He is 11% owned at 10,500. I only have 7. I do think that he should probably be somewhere in that 10 to 15% range. So I think his ownership is proper. I'm just kind of getting to Baltimore right now, and we'll talk that through. On the opposite side, John Means is going for Baltimore. Is stretched out. He's 6,500. He's 3% owned. He's probably underowned. He should be somewhere in that 5 to 10 range. I don't have him, unfortunately. I haven't found the need to go much lower than JP Sears. Maybe that'll look a little bit different as we go on. But I don't expect to get a ton of Verlander because of Baltimore, and I don't expect to get a lot of John Means. Let's talk about the teams that I am getting to. I'm going to start on the Baltimore side. We have them 10th in top stacks, 7th in top value, 6th in stack score at 5.5%. They are 11th in ownership at 3.7%. I have 30 Baltimore Orioles stacks right now, and I have 15% ownership to the Orioles. Sign me up for Baltimore against Verlander. Now, 143 X ISO to lefties for Verlander this season. That's going to be Gunnar Henderson. That's going to be O'Hearn. It's going to be basically the entire lineup except for Jordan Westburg. But 187 to righties. He's only striking out 21% of guys. He's still getting some swinging strikes, but this is not the same Justin Verlander that we should be used to. I have 23% of Gunnar Henderson, a third base shortstop MPE in the leadoff spot on the road. Yeah, I just want to get to Baltimore. I think these guys are criminally underowned. They should all be a couple percentage points higher. The park is fine, but I just don't mind this matchup against Justin Verlander. So I want to get to the Orioles as sort of my contrarian stack for the day. But I also want to pay up for the top of the Astros lineup against John Means. Now, Means is still working his way back. He's given up basically no power to lefties. No power to righties, rather, over the past couple of years. Why do I keep flipping left and right in my head? I don't know. 170 X ISO to lefties over the past 3 seasons, 206 to righties. We know how much power is at the top of the Houston order. They project against lefties 202, 209, 238, 228. That's the ISO for the first 4 hitters in the Astros lineup. I have 13 Astros stacks. They're 4% owned. I have 7. I think they're a really nice pay up to be contrarian option because of how much value exists from 6,700 to 8,900 at pitching. I think it's really easy to roster Altuve and Bregman and Alvarez and Tucker because of the way pitching looks today. So the way that I look at this game, I want the hitting in a big way. As I rank the game, I'm going to rank it. Oh, I can't do it, can I? I'm going to go Astros bats, Orioles bats, Verlander, John Means. But this is a game I want a lot of hitting for. I have 22% ownership to this game. That's the second most, only behind White Sox Nats. I have 44 stacks. That's almost a third of my stacks. This is a game I've got my eye on in a big way. Now, A's and Mariners. 3.3 run implied total for the A's, 4.2 for Seattle. We've got JP Sears on the hill for the Oakland A's. Brian Wu is going for Seattle. This is where I'm starting to get all of my pitcher exposure. We'll start on the Wu side. 7,200 for Brian Wu. Taking on an Oakland team in Oakland. Runs limited. Righty power aggressively limited. Brian Wu so far this season, 171 X ISO to lefties, 0.071 to righties. Wu at 7,200 against the A's in Oakland. The implied total on the A's is 3.3 runs. The fact that Wu is 7,200 is nuts. He strikes out 29% of righties, only 17% of lefties. It's probably more lefties for Oakland, but I don't care at all. He's 29% owned. Is he a little over-owned? Yeah, but is he incredibly cost-effective? Also, yes. I have him projected fourth best on today's slate, but at 7,200, not exactly the 4th most expensive salary. I have close to 40% of Brian Wu. I think he looks great. But I also think JP Sears looks great. Only a 4.2 run implied total for Seattle. Julio Rodriguez and Teoscar are the only bats that you really need to be terrified for. Sears definitely gives up a bunch of power, specifically to righties, 221 X ISO. But if Sears is 6,700 in this park, that's really nice value. Really nice. We have an 11% top 2 pitcher, 18% top 2 value. He's 21% owned. He should be 20% owned. I have 26. So I have 65% of this game in pitching out of my 200. It's too good to pass up in this park. Now, while I just explained how much pitching I have, it's the opposite for hitting. I essentially don't have the A's. They're 3% owned. They're dead last in top stack. I don't have a single stack. I have a couple shares of some individual hitters. We also have Seattle 4th in ownership at 8.5%. I don't agree with that at all. 8th in top stack, 9th in top value. The Mariners are over-owned. I have 3 stacks and 4% of them, so I'm half the field. I get it, I guess, going up against JP Sears, but it's lefty power is your only saving grace in Oakland. Righty power has a 77 park factor, so this is a team that's probably going to beat 8 righties. I don't like this spot for Seattle. I rank this game Woo, Sears, Mariners, A's. Chris G. Adam is on vacation. He'll be back for the NBA. Fun game here, though. It's very, very weird slate for tonight. I like it. I'm very happy about it. We'll find out if I actually play it or if I play NFL. I haven't thought about it yet. But we're going to move on. Final 2 games of the day. San Diego Padres taking on the Colorado Rockies. This one is in San Diego. 4.9 run implied total for the Pods. 3.1 for the Rockies. They are not a good baseball team. Michael Wacha is going for San Diego. Ty Blach going for the Rockies. Block is unowned and should be. Don't get there. 29% ownership coming into Michael Wacha. He is 8,900. I'm basically in lockstep with the field. I have 25%. He's a 20 to 25% top 2 pitcher. Ownership coming in a little bit higher than that, and it should because he's pretty cost effective. He's got a great strikeout matchup against a very shitty Rockies team. Wacha doesn't have like big strikeout stuff. He's like a 20, 21% K guy, but the Rockies are just bad. Now, Wacha does give up a bunch of righty power. I don't think there's a lot of righty bats in the lineup for Colorado that can really affect him. So I'm happy to get to Wacha. I have no interest whatsoever in getting to the Rockies. We have them 15th in top stack. I have them 16th. I have one lineup of 1 share of Chris Bryant. Don't go to the Rockies. Do go to the Padres. However, this is also a bit of a fade for me here too. 4th in top stack, 8th in top value in our top stack tool. That's a 7% stack score. We have them double that in ownership at 14.5%. They are the most owned team on today's slate. I am 1/3 the ownership of San Diego. And I think they're a better value than we do if Profar's hitting in the leadoff spot. But I don't want this much of San Diego. Like, don't get me wrong. Fernando Tatis is exceptional. He's in a quarter of the lineups today. I'll happily just take a different high-end bat, especially in the outfield. So I have 3 stacks. I do like using them as one-offs, two-mans, three-mans. I don't see San Diego as a priority. Now, they clearly look really good against Ty Blach. Ty Blach, 160 ex-ISO to lefties, 190 to righties. He doesn't get strikeouts. San Diego should bludgeon him. But this is a pretty tepid run projection for San Diego right now in a park that limits lefty power at the very least. Now, that doesn't matter as much against Ty Blach today, but does limit runs as well. I think San Diego is a pretty easy fade tonight. And I definitely don't think they look as good as some of the other, like as good as Milwaukee from a cost perspective. If you want to go, like if you can get to Tatis in a cash game, he's 24% owned. Well worth it. I don't have the same feeling for GPPs. So this game is mostly a stay away in terms of major stacking. I'm going to rank it Wacha, Padres bats. You shouldn't roster the Rockies or Ty Blach at all. But I guess Rockies bats just because Wacha's in 30% of lineups. But I just don't like it. It's all basically one-offs for me. Minimal stacks. I don't like the park. It's much to me, it's like I look at the Dodgers and like I don't think the Dodgers are all that different than the Padres. So let's walk through it. I'm going to flip through it on the screen because I think this will be easier to talk about. We have the Padres 8% to be a top stack. I have it at 8.2. So we're going to call it 8. The Dodgers are 6% to be a top stack. I have it at 7.5. Let's just call it 7. Let's split the difference. 1% of top stack. However, the Dodgers are 4.7% owned, while the Padres are 10% more than that. None of that makes sense. None of that makes sense. Now, is Erod better than Ty Block? Of course. But this Dodgers team is still very likely to be a top stack, but they're not getting anywhere near the same ownership. And that's where it starts to get appealing to me in large field contests. So let's talk Dodgers. Lance Lynn going for LA, Erod going for the Tigers. 40% ownership coming into Lance Lynn. He's 8,400. He's the most owned pitcher. 24% top stack. Or top pitcher rather. I have him at 35. I have 74% Lance Lynn. Everybody pay attention. If I have this much Lance Lynn, you know what's going to happen. He's clearly the best guy that you can get to today. The righty strikeout stuff is very real. Strikeouts just play up against Detroit. It's not a very good team here against Detroit. So load me up potentially with Dodgers if you can, but definitely load me up with Lance Lynn, the clear best arm on today's slate. Erod is 9,400. I see no path to go to him. He's not that kind of guy. And that's where it starts to get a little problematic. Does he strike out lefties? Yeah. Well, it's Freeman and Muncy. So I don't know if that's really the direction you want to go. Doesn't really give up a lot of power, but at 9,400 against the Dodgers, I don't really know what the ceiling is, especially in a park that plays up power. So I don't have Erod. I'm just loading up on Lance Lynn. I am neutral to the Dodgers right now, but I'm neutral to like Mookie Betts at 10%, which is fine. I'm getting to other teams instead of the Dodgers, but the principle still stands. If you like the Padres in large field contests, I think you can find better options. Like I have more stacks of the Tigers today against Lance Lynn's ownership. That shouldn't be all that surprising. If the power happens to be there, they're 3% owned. That's exactly what I have as well. They're cost effective. Dodgers bats, though. Betts, Smith, Martinez. I think the three of them all stand out very well here against Erod. I like the Dodgers as the sneak pivot to the Padres. Ranking this game, though, is very simple. Lance Lynn, Dodgers, Tigers, Erod. LMAO, he on the Tigers is not a true statement, but I wouldn't expect you to get any bit of this right, man. You just come here. You don't understand any of the words that are ever spoken. You lose it in 2 seconds after me saying it. I have 3% of the Tigers. He on the Tigers is not at all what just happened. But some people struggle for listening comprehension, reading comprehension, just general knowledge whatsoever. So I can see how that could have been confusing. 3.3% of the Tigers is not on the Tigers. Sometimes I wonder how people end up where they are. I really do. 3.3% of the Tigers. That is the 12th most of any team on this 16-team slate. The only teams that I have less are the Braves, Cardinals, A's, and Rockies. But yes, he on the Tigers. It's almost like this is a game that we're trying to maximize for, and not just, I can't believe someone would play the Tigers. That's a very quick way to not ever win anything ever in life. Oh man, it's so, I have so much fun doing this show and ripping apart stupidity and nonsense. I love it so much. Let's sum it all up for today. On the pitching side, this part's easy. Lance Lynn is your best pitching option. I don't think it's very close. The next 4 guys that I have are the only guys that I have in double digits. Brian Wu, JP Sears, Michael Wacha, Jordan Montgomery. Those guys are making up most of the ownership on today's slate, and they're making up all but 9% of 183% of my pitching exposure is going to those 5 guys. That's 90%. Totally works for me. As I look at hitting, my most exposed team, Chicago White Sox, I have 30 stacks. Baltimore Orioles, I have 30 stacks. That is a massive stand above the field for right now. I'm a bit over on the Rangers. I'm 2xing the Red Sox. I'm neutral to the Nats and the Astros. As of right now, Brewers and Padres are big-time fades for me in large field contests. They will look great as cash options for sure. I think they look worse for me because of the way that pitching looks. I have no disagreements with the chalk pitching. We have 5 guys that are all 20% or higher, and they all should be. And if we're funneling there, then I have to get different somewhere else. And the easiest place to get different after agreeing with chalk pitching is finding different stacks. So I'm pretty easily getting away from chalk Padres, chalk Brewers. Hopefully we avoid them. Let's think about it like this. All right, Padres are 8% to be the top scoring stack. Brewers are, we'll call it 12. So that means it's 92% to not be and 88% to not be. It means that neither one of those teams is the top stack 81% of the time. 80% of the time you play this slate out, it's not the Brewers or the Padres. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. Find a way to get away from the chalk stacks today. Cross your fingers and hope you're right. Guys, that's all I got. We're at the top of the hour. We got nothing after us. Thank you to the 100 people that showed up. I know baseball is not a priority anymore. We're here all week. We're all here all of next week as well. Contenders videos are out. Good luck, guys. I love having you guys here. This has been fun. We're back tomorrow. No football competition. We will have a football show after this one, but all we care about tomorrow is baseball. That's all we've got left. Good luck, everybody. Win some money, whether it's on the football side or the MLB side. Make sure you're watching all of our contests. Make sure you're signing up for Owner's Box. I'm going to get out of here, folks. Peace.